Are you a first-time home buyer? Here's a list of do's and don'ts for you. First one is don't rush. Buying your first home is a very exciting time, but you don't want to rush into the process. You don't want to go with the first lender that you talk to. You don't want to put an offer on the very first house that you see. Take your time, think about what you're doing, read the paperwork that your real estate agent gives you, explaining the process, explaining the contract, those types of things. Don't just skim over it, and you could end up missing a very important piece of information. When else should you take a breath? Well, in the creation of your must-have list. This is where I see a lot of first-time home buyers who will tell me one thing, but what they really want is something else, or what they end up buying is something completely different. Really think about what you're wanting to buy. What kind of space do you need? Do you need a fenced backyard for a puppy or a child? Do you need a dedicated office space because you work from home? Don't sacrifice things that you do truly need just to get into a house. Second thing is don't sign anything you don't understand. Now, we live in an electronic age, so a lot of times now transactions are done where I send you the paperwork by email, you put a digital signature on it, and bada bing, bada boom, within 30 seconds, everything's signed and done. Don't not read the documents. I have no problem sitting down with someone and going over this paperwork one-on-one with you, because it is a very important financial decision that you're making. You need to understand exactly what your obligations and responsibilities are in that contract. So sometimes it's not always feasible due to work schedules or whatever to sit down and go over the paperwork. So one of the things that I have started doing with my buyers is I will do a little short form video where I have the forms pulled up on my screen and I walk through that step by step to explain to them what each paper means, what they're committing to, what the timelines are, so that there's no question as to what it is that you're signing. The third don't is don't forget about closing cost. A lot of people get hung up on, okay, I'm doing an FHA loan, I need 3.5% down, and that's the number you have in your mind, but there's closing cost. When you get a mortgage, there's going to be cost associated with getting that mortgage. So either you're going to need to save that money as well, or you're going to have to get the seller to agree to pay for those closing costs. Now, because we are in a tight inventory market, a lot of times you're not going to be able to just offer list price and the seller agree to pay those closing costs. So that could change how much home you buy if you're going to need those closing costs to be included in the purchase. The fourth don't is don't be afraid to walk away. What I mean by that, part of buying a home is getting a home inspection. And I have seen so many buyers, especially the past few years in the crazy market that we had, they got a home inspection and they had some concerns, but they were so afraid that the seller wouldn't do anything or that they would want to go with a different offer if they asked for repairs, that they just said, it's fine, we'll figure it out, we'll work it out, and they just took the home as is. Or they were so excited about the house, they didn't want to ask for any repairs, and they kind of overlooked some things that maybe they should have took a second look at. So don't be afraid to walk away from a house if there are structural issues, if there are major electrical or plumbing issues in that house. Don't feel like I have to buy this house. If it's not the one for you, move on and we'll find you something else that doesn't have tens of thousands of dollars of repairs. Now let's move on to the do's. The first do is be realistic. You're not going to find the perfect house. They're few and far between. Especially when you're a first-time home buyer, it's real easy to get caught up in the trap of, I want a home like my parents live in. But you need to understand your parents haven't probably always lived in that house, especially when they were first starting out. So be realistic based on your budget, what you're going to be able to purchase. Be realistic in the it would be nice to have list. Don't put things that it would be nice to have on your must-have list. Be realistic with your budget and what you're going to be able to get for that amount of money. The second do is get pre-approved. A lot of people want to put the cart before the horse, and they want to go look at homes right off the bat. And when they find one they like, then they'll get pre-approved. But that's not really how that whole process works. You want to get pre-approved first. Why? Number one, you don't want to be looking at houses that you can't afford, because guess what? If you're looking at $350,000 homes and you only get approved for $275,000, you're not going to be happy with a $275,000 house, because you're going to be constantly comparing it to those higher priced homes. The second reason, in the market that we're in, it is still a very competitive market, and homes that are move-in ready and priced right are going to have multiple offers. You want to be able to pull the trigger and make an offer knowing that you've already talked to your loan officer and that you're pre-approved for that mortgage. A lot of times right now, sellers are asking for a copy of the pre-approval letter with the offer, just to make sure you have talked to somebody and that you are vetted and able to buy their home. So always get pre-approved before you go out looking for homes. Your third do is ask questions. I do this for a living. There's a lot of things that I know that sometimes I forget that not everybody knows. So if we're out looking at homes and you have a question about something, please stop and ask your question. If we're going over the paperwork and you have a question, ask me your question. There's not a stupid question. I know you hear that all the time. And in the real estate world, especially for a first-time home buyer, there is no stupid question. You've never done this before. There's no way you're going to know how the process works and what to expect. So any question you have, you need to raise that question. You need to voice your concern, and let's get that settled for you before you move forward. The fourth do is look into first-time home buyer programs. I actually had a lady call me earlier this week and said she had talked to 2 different mortgage companies who told her there's no such thing as a first-time home buyer program. And I was like, they said, what? Now, a lot of people do have the misconception that there is a special loan out there called the first-time home buyer program. And that is a misnomer. There's no such thing as a specific first-time home buyer program. But there are several programs available to help first-time home buyers get into a home with little to no down payment. So the FHA loans, the THDA loans, and the USDA Rural Development loans are all considered to be first-time home buyer programs because of the way they're set up to require little to no money out of pocket to help get you into a home. So look into what your options are. Don't automatically assume that you need a 5% down payment to do a conventional mortgage. Sometimes there's going to be better options for you, both in pricing and in down payment and closing costs. The last do, and you knew this one was coming, is hire the right real estate agent. You want an agent who is local, who knows the market that you're looking in, and who has done enough transactions that they see red flags before they happen, and they can help you navigate through the process. So if you are a first-time home buyer and you need a real estate agent, feel free to reach out to me. You can send me a DM, or let's start talking in the comments.